10 minutes after 3 this afternoon, this truck carrying radioactive material wrecked at the intersection of Interstate 10 and Harrison. The wreck was planned, but the only information these Beaumont firemen knew was that the truck was marked radioactive, and the victim kept repeating over and over, "The box exploded."
Box blew up.
The radiation victim was then taken to the Beaumont Medical Surgical Hospital by a fire department's chief's car, where the staff was ready and waiting.
What do we do?
After the victim was checked over by a radiation Geiger counter for the second time, he was taken inside the hospital for observation. A few minutes later, a worker with the Southeast Texas Blood Bank showed up with a fresh supply of blood. Then more victims were brought in from a ship explosion at the port of Beaumont, but the emergency room ramp was blocked, causing a delay. 3 more victims were finally unloaded with cuts, burns, and broken bones.
Not right now.
But the day was far from over. 4 more injured patients were brought in by the Army Reserve after the driver apparently missed the entrance to the hospital and turned around. This was the last of today's disaster victims.
Some man in the snow.
Operator Edward Mesh told me he thought his medical staff had performed extremely well, but agreed Beaumont does need more drills like today's, especially when they involve dangers associated with radiation exposure.
Yes, I think a more in-depth, concentrated effort in disaster, whether it be routine disasters to ship or nuclear radiation type disasters, should be set some type of policy in the city of Beaumont and looked at very closely.
In Beaumont, Keith Elkins, Channel 6 News.
Hospital officials were first notified at 3:08.
Okay, we got 2 possible radiations. We got 2 other.
The first ambulance arrived at 3:28.
We need to get vital signs on this one, and we need to get skull and C-spine x-rays on it.
In the middle of the drill, there was a real emergency.
This is not part of the drill. They have a gunshot victim at St. Eve, at Baptist, that they need to transport to St. Eve. Can you get an ambulance over here, or you want us to transport?
Stand by.
A Kelly Hickson ambulance already at the hospital was given the call.
You first came out and called for the ambulance to move the patient that was shot. Okay, it was maybe 15 minutes before that patient was actually moved. What happened in the between time?
I have no idea. I don't work in the emergency room.
Yeah, and the president was walking through here, and he even heard we were just making all efforts to get the ambulance, to get this little boy transported. He even said, we need an ambulance. So, and I even went and said, we need an ambulance. So really, the nurse involved, do you know who it was?
Donna was actually taking care of the patient, so she could
There was not one particular person that was kind of running that particular incident.
Was there any, is that an unusual amount of time between calling for an ambulance, the 15 minutes?
No.
Oh, it's not an unusual
Not in lieu of what was happening at the time. They're being all tied up also in...
So that was good time, you feel?
Right. Right.
Initially, disaster officials say the hospital did good.
It was a little bit late getting some stretchers in and some other things, but they were here before the ambulances came, so it's no major problems or anything.
At Baptist Hospital, Wayne Sparrow, Channel 6 News.
Here at the port of Beaumont, there was an explosion and fire on the deck of one of the ships docked here. Reportedly, 40 persons have been injured. Fortunately for everyone concerned, this was only a disaster drill. The Beaumont Fire Department, along with the Sabine Neches Chiefs Association, all 3 Beaumont hospitals, the Beaumont Police Department, and several other area agencies were involved. Drills like this are held to evaluate reaction times and disaster policies of agencies that would normally be called in times of disaster. If this had actually been a disaster, how did your men do in overall performance of everyone?
Well, they reacted real well, and they attacked the simulated ship fire very well. You can always see areas that you can improve in, and also it gave us an opportunity to work with the local hospitals through their accreditation program, and it was a joint effort of local industry, other cities with the city of Beaumont, and for an overall community effort. And overall, this went real well.
If 40 persons had actually been injured, there would not be enough ambulances to transport everyone. The United States Army Reserve would then be called in. Although pre-warned, Chief Shelton says the reserve is always available.
They do have people during the daylight hours that are available, civil service employees that are at the U.S. Army Reserve Center on College, and they are available to assist us in time of need.
Later this evening, Shelton and representatives of all 3 local hospitals will sit down and critique overall performance and talk about problem areas. Terry Elliott, Channel 6 News. Although it was just a disaster drill, the Beaumont Fire Department, all 3 Beaumont hospitals, and several other agencies had to contend with helping 40 injured persons. It was a mock explosion and fire on deck one of the ships docked at the port. Some of those involved in the emergency had been pre-warned. Some had not. The main purpose of the drill was to find out how fast and efficiently emergency personnel could react under extreme circumstances. As Beaumont Fire Chief C.A. Shelton told us yesterday, he and representatives from all the local hospitals would sit down for a critique session on overall performance. Today, Chief Shelton said the overall outlook was very good, but he added there were some serious problems between his department and the hospitals.
In the meeting with the hospital authorities, we realized that we could have given them additional information in regards to the type of injuries and the severity, and it would have been most helpful to them. We also realized that in any type of emergency, whether it be a disaster or a real emergency, communications is always a problem. And we found out that we have some minor deficiencies in our communication network. And one of the big things that we're exploring the possibility of installing a mobile telephone within our emergency communications van.
Shelton says emergency phone costs are being looked at to see if they fall within the fire department's price range. If so, a telephone unit will be bought very soon. Terry Elliott, Channel 6 News.
If you were to put a grade on just how this part of yesterday's disaster drill was handled, it might add up like this: A for effort and unsatisfactory in performance. That was the evaluation given today as I reviewed video of yesterday's accident with David Short, a radiological technologist and head of the Department of Allied Health at Lamar University.
Basically, I noted about 3 things wrong. First of all, the fire department washed the area. This is a no-no. When it's a liquid contaminant, they could contaminate the whole area. The area should have been quarantined. I noted in the transportation there seemed to be a lack of communication with the hospital. Possibly they could have let the hospital know a little better that this was a radiation victim. There also seemed to be, once they got the victim to the door, a lot of people there standing around. If they communicated that this was a radiation accident patient, all of these people need to be out of the way.
Short says that the victim should never be moved from the scene of radiation exposure unless there are life-threatening injuries. Instead, the victim's clothes should be removed and the radiation contaminant washed off before attempting to transport. That would have prevented exposing these firemen and all their equipment to radiation. And the accident scene should be sealed off and not hosed down with water, because that could contaminate the city's sewer supply. And if a Geiger counter shows that the victim is hot or contaminated by radiation, the hospital should be notified before the victim arrives, so employees like these could also avoid exposure. But this accident was part of a drill, and it was staged as a learning experience in case a real emergency were to occur. And for that, all people who participated in yesterday's exercise deserve an A+. In Beaumont, Keith Elkins, Channel 6 News.
Given community needs in terms of bed capacity of the facility.
Room and office space for the entire education department, which includes 2 nursing instructors department. So in terms of square footage, in this expansion plan, we've made a major commitment to that. One of the problems
suites and lounge areas in the hospital as it exists right now for our present capacity of 525 is a stairwell and a elevator shaft with 2 electric elevators that would serve all 5 floors and would enter onto the patient floor on each of the 5 present nursing floors. Pardon me, 4 nursing floors. The 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th floors of the hospital are the nursing floors in the hospital.
For 3 months, Pinehurst city officials have been working on a possible budget deficit of more than $50,000 for the next fiscal year. That fiscal year begins July 1st, and with time running out, Pinehurst city officials will hold their 4th special session on that issue tonight. What's the situation for tonight?
We have the budget ready for tonight, and I'm sure I have all the confidence in the world in the council that they will accept this budget and adopt it tonight.
Public Works Director Rusty Robinson has been working on the budget proposal. The 2 main issues have been possibly raising water and sewer rates for better service and more money for city employees.
We are looking into long-term financing for water system improvements, sewer system improvements, and at that time we may have to raise our water and sewer rates.
Okay. What about the salary increase for city employees?
Okay, we looked at $75 for employees and a $125 a month increase for department heads compared to a 12% across the board raise. We determined that this 75 and 125 was more feasible.
No tax increase is proposed. Expenditures are projected at $623,000 with expected revenues of $653,000. To offset the initial deficit of more than $50,000, the revised budget proposal cuts the amount of street resurfacing, limits school training for policemen, cuts back the training for maintenance employees, and city officials won't be attending so many out-of-town meetings. Pinehurst spokesmen say services to citizens will not be altered. We'll let you know if the budget is approved. From Pinehurst, Wayne Sparrow, Channel 6 News.
This is the Southampton Refining Company located between Koontz and Silsbee. And this is the Enchanted Forest subdivision its residents contend is being polluted by wastewater from the Southampton plant. And that is the biggest reason residents have protested the plant's request to increase the amount of treated wastewater it currently discharges. The plant has asked the state for permission to increase that amount from 20,000 to 114,000 gallons a day. But residents are saying that the plant shouldn't receive the additional permit because of its past history of violations. For example, this 1979 report compiled by the 6th District Water Resources Department in Orange showed that there was no clay liner in the plant's impoundment or settling pond. However, plant officials have allegedly testified in recent public hearings that the ponds are lined with clay. According to the Federal Environmental Protection Agency, this clay liner is necessary to prevent pollution from leaking through the pond to underground streams like this one that leads into Village Creek. At yesterday's public hearing, the state attorney for the Water Resources Department testified he had never seen this report, and when residents tried to enter it into evidence, they were prevented from doing so because the District 6 director wasn't present to certify the report's authenticity. And on May 14th of this year, at the same time Southampton plant officials were attending public hearings trying to get their permit amendment approved, they were found in violation once again, this time for storing 10 barrels of sludge from a leaded gasoline tank into an unapproved pit. But this document was also prevented from being entered into the official record for the same reason. Plant officials were unavailable today for comment. But state officials have agreed to launch an investigation into these apparent violations before making an official ruling on the permit request. And those findings are expected to be released in about a month. In Silsbee, Keith Elkins, Channel 6 News.
The petition stated that the district's decision to file another appeal to the Fifth Circuit Court's order to come up with an acceptable plan by the fall was another delay tactic and an unsound financial investment at the expense of taxpayers and black students in the district. It demanded that the board reconsider its decision, begin immediately on a contingency plan for the fall, and recognize its neglect of black students. Then the group of petition bearers asked the board what desegregation plans were being considered by the district.
Since we, as South Park residents, and you, as South Park board members, have been in this issue for 11 years, haven't you tentatively considered that we're going to lose this case? Are you going to wait until August 31st to decide what you're going to do if you're planning for our kids, the teachers, and everyone else in this district? You mean you have no concrete concepts of what you might have to do to deal with the problem that we have in this area for 11 years?
Most of the trustees would not answer questions concerning desegregation plans being discussed by the district. The trustees said plans being discussed were just possibilities and said none have been recommended and told citizens that they were not public since they were discussed in executive sessions. But board member Dr. Richard Price said taxpayers deserve some answers and for the first time gave an inkling of what the desegregation plans would involve. He told citizens that the West End Beaumont schools like Forest Park, Regina Howell, and Marshall would remain open this fall, but said the plans did not guarantee that any of the South End schools would reopen. Price said Hebert and MacArthur were both long shots. He said South Park stood about a 50-50 chance of staying open, depending on how you look at it. Price also revealed that one proposal would provide for busing between Hebert and Forest Park. Another would have all 10th, 11th, and 12th graders attend school at Forest Park and all 9th graders going to Hebert. Board member Ronald Walker denied knowing about any of the possibilities brought up by Dr. Price and added he would consider no plan that went beyond freedom of choice. Parents and patrons also added that since the desegregation battle began, academic achievement in the predominantly black schools has regressed, as evidenced in standardized test scores of students attending those schools. Ed Ivey, Channel 6 News.
The results of last year's Texas assessment of basic skills tests created quite a controversy, with black parents and board member Richard Price charging that serious inequities existed between predominantly white Forest Park High School, who scored the highest on the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic, and predominantly black Hebert High School, who scored the lowest. Promises of improvements were guaranteed by board members, and this year's results show there was significant improvement, although Hebert is still behind. In the 3 high schools that make up the South Park Independent School District, 9th grade test scores broke down like this. In mathematics, Forest Park increased. Hebert and South Park both decreased. In reading skills, Forest Park decreased, and both Hebert and South Park increased. And in writing skills, all 3 schools showed significant improvement. Overall, the South Park Independent School District stayed the same in math and increased between 6 and 17% in reading and writing skills. Statewide, 70% of all 9th graders tested mastered these same basic skills. From the South Park Independent School District, Keith Elkins, Channel 6 News.
The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals has ordered the South Park School District to come up with a desegregation plan to be implemented by this fall. Last night, a petition reportedly signed by 1,000 black parents and patrons of the district asked school trustees to drop their appeal of the order to the Supreme Court and comply with the law. The parents charge that the appeal will serve to destroy an opportunity for a quality education for black youngsters. The school board accepted the petition, but Superintendent Dr. Mike Taylor says the board has already decided to appeal. Petitioners also last night asked the district to reveal desegregation plans that it might be implementing this fall.
We have no contingency plan. It has never been discussed by the board, and I haven't presented one.
But Dr. Taylor did issue to trustees in executive session June 4th 6 possible plans that would totally integrate grades 9 through 12 in the South Park District. In this confidential report, Plan A would place all of the district's 10th, 11th, and 12th graders in the Forest Park High School. All 9th graders would go to Hebert. South Park would become a vocational school. Under Plan A, Forest Park would then be 58% white, 40% black. Hebert's student population would be 56% white, 41% black. This plan would require crosstown busing of students. The second plan places all 11th and 12th graders in Forest Park, all 10th graders in South Park, and all 9th graders in Hebert. It too would require crosstown busing. 57% of Forest Park would then be white, 40% black. 56% of the students at South Park would be white, 41% black. At Hebert, the student population would be 57% white, 41% black. The third desegregation proposal would also involve crosstown busing. Under this plan, all 11th and 12th graders would go to Forest Park, grades 9 through 10 would attend South Park, Hebert would become a vocational school. Forest Park would have a student population containing 57% whites, 40% blacks. South Park would be 56% white, 41% black. Plan 4 would have Hebert house 9th graders. Some 9th graders would also attend South Park along with grades 10 through 12. And Forest Park would also house portions of the 10th, 11th, and 12th grades. This plan would require minimum crosstown busing. 59% of the students at Forest Park would be white, 38% black. 48% would be white at South Park, 47% black. At Hebert, the student population would be 59% white, 41% black. Plan 5 would require crosstown busing and a bond issue to build a new high school in the district. 9th through 12th graders would then be split equally between the new facility and Forest Park. On both campuses, 57% of the students would be white, 40% black. It's not known what would happen to the existing Hebert and South Park campuses under this plan. The last plan would set up 2 magnet schools, or schools with specialized curriculum that would attract interested students from throughout the district. Forest Park would be one of the magnet schools, with either Hebert or South Park apparently becoming a second magnet school. The student population would then be divided between both magnet schools. About 57% of the students would be white at both campuses, 40% would be black. This plan would also involve crosstown busing.
School officials say last night's hearing was the longest in the district's history. It lasted from 5 p.m. yesterday afternoon to 3:35 a.m. this morning. When it was over, Vidor Junior High School Principal Darvin Horton had been fired. The hearing was prompted after 6 charges were brought against Horton by school employees. As many as 300 concerned citizens were in the halls of Vidor High School throughout the closed session. Roughly 7 persons testified on behalf of Horton. About 9 spoke against him during testimony which lasted until midnight when the board began its deliberations. The vote to fire the principal was 6-1, and last night neither Horton nor his attorney, Paul Buchanan, were told which of the charges cost the principal his job. School board officials told Channel 6 News today, however, Horton was fired for misuse of district funds. Attorney Buchanan indicates it's not known whether or not Horton will take further legal action. From Vidor, Wayne Sparrow, Channel 6 News. These shrimp boats loaded with marijuana were seized in Port Arthur in November of 1979. The seizure busted what became known as the Colombian Connection, a smuggling operation which brought more than $100 million of marijuana to the United States from Colombia. Speaking to the Independent Business Council of the Greater Orange Area Chamber of Commerce today, Senator Lloyd Benson said, presently, the Coast Guard can't stop the large amount of smuggling. He said the marijuana is brought in through 4 channels in the Caribbean, but there is a solution.
If we could draw on the resources of the United States Navy in their patrol efforts, we could spot, we could identify, and we could trail the mothership before they divide up this illegal cargo into the smaller boats. It's a lot easier to spot that ship on the high seas than after you finally get it into the Texas coastline and it's divided up into cars and trucks and other ways that are much more difficult to intercept. The Attorney General has agreed to consider that idea, and I certainly hope that he approves it. I can think of no single step that we could take that would do more to cut down on drugs coming into this country.
From Orange, Wayne Sparrow, Channel 6 News.
There was a marked difference in the reception given to the Texas Assessment of Basic Skills scores at last night's South Park School Board meeting compared with last year's, although for the second year in a row, predominantly white Forest Park High School scores were considerably higher than predominantly black Hebert High Schools. Ninth grade test scores in the 3 high school district broke down like this. In mathematics, Forest Park scores went up, and both Hebert and South Park went down. In reading, it was Forest Park that went down, and both Hebert and South Park high schools showing improvement. And in writing skills, all 3 high schools showed a significant improvement. Overall, the district stayed at the same level in math, but increased in both reading and writing skills. Today, Channel 6 News asked South Park Superintendent Dr. Mike Taylor if he thought the district was making enough progress in score improvement.
I don't think we're making enough progress, and we're very disappointed in the scores and from where we started from. We have made some progress, so that is a positive sign.
Taylor says the scores at Hebert High School are indicative of scores statewide for lower socioeconomic students, but adds we'll never be satisfied until we bring all of the scores of all of the students up to the proper grade scoring levels. From the South Park Independent School District, Keith Elkins, Channel 6 News.
The South Park Independent School District is involved in a number of education projects, and we found out today that one project that's been going on about 3 years could be called a celebration. These young ladies in grades 4 through 8 are participants in a beginning modeling course. The course, offered 3 times a year, is open to any area youngster and is a Lamar Community Extension project.
We take sort of a finishing school approach and teaching etiquette, manners, generally how to grow up gracefully and a little easier. And of course, the modeling is an important aspect of it. Even for the young girls, we teach them couple of models walks and some pivots so that if they get up on a runway, they know what they're doing. They know how to show clothes, they know how to feel self-confident about it and have a good time.
There are also sessions for other age groups, and to join the celebration, you can contact Lamar University. In Beaumont, Wayne Sparrow, Channel 6 News.
Beaumont, or more specifically Lamar University, has been chosen as the site of an ambitious new project designed to open the lines of communication between business and labor. The project is the John E. Gray Institute, a unique concept that will be the first of its kind in the country. Today's dedication ceremony at McDonald Gymnasium hallmarked the beginning of the Institute's work, named in honor of the President Emeritus of Lamar University, John E. Gray.
A number of local dignitaries was on hand for today's dedication ceremony, including the Vice President of the United States.
Mr. Bush, a Houstonian, stopped in to be the keynote speaker. The Vice President said Beaumont is a logical stop between France, where he met with President Mitterrand yesterday, and California, to be debriefed on his trip by President Reagan. Regarding the Gray Institute's global implications, Mr. Bush said the economic future of the United States is of vital interest to our allies.
The news that came out of these consultations, particularly with France's new President Mitterrand and Prime Minister Thatcher, focused on the issues of the direction of the French government or the defense restraints by the United Kingdom, on the Ottawa summit that's upcoming, where many leaders of the free world will get together to talk about East-West trade and many other issues. But what did not show up in the news was the hopes that these foreign leaders have, the integral tie, incidentally, that they have to the future of the United States. They're tied into our economy. Their hopes for our leadership position in the world are very well understood. France and England, I am absolutely convinced, and I say both, are and will remain close friends and allies. But
the Gray Institute is backed by several high-powered individuals, 4 former Texas governors and businessmen, Elvis Mason, Harry Hubbard, and Lloyd Hayes. Other speakers today included Senator Lloyd Benson, Senator John Tower, Governor Bill Clements, and Congressman Jack Brooks. Beaumont was selected for the Institute because of its central location in the Gulf Coast huge petrochemical industry. Their creators feel our area is the ideal site for advancing business, labor, industry, and education through the research and work of the Gray Institute. The man for whom all this tribute was bestowed is well known in the Golden Triangle for his 50 years of educational and civic contributions. In his closing remarks, John Gray summed up the goals of his institute.
The Institute and Foundation, which has been dedicated today, will bring together top brains and ability from business, labor, industry, higher education, and government in an intensive effort to develop and maintain in the region we serve an economy which will be productive and competitive and which will provide worthwhile career opportunities for our people.
The site on Lamar's campus for the complex has not yet been determined. Temporarily, it will be housed on the 7th floor of the Gray Library. Beginning with seed money of an anonymous $500,000 grant, the John Gray Institute will eventually be a nonprofit organization funded by corporations and private individuals. Delilah Holman, Channel 6 News.
Last January, when U.S. District Judge William Justice issued an injunction for Texas to make massive reforms to relieve overcrowded prison conditions, state officials cried foul, saying the federal judge had overstepped his bounds of power, and they appealed the judge's order to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. Last Friday, that appellate court granted the state a temporary stay in complying with the injunction until a full appeal of Justice's order can be heard. Today, I asked Governor Bill Clements and Lieutenant Governor William Hobby about that appellate court ruling.
I want to clarify one thing about that. I have declared myself with no equivocation that 3 people in a cell is wrong. And I guess this is about the only issue on which I agree with Judge Justice in his ruling. So by August 1, we'll have all of the cells with only 2 inmates in a cell. We will then have temporary quarters built by November 1 to take care of those who will be in tents during the summer. So we will have all of the people out of 3 people in a cell mowed right away.
Judge Justice seized upon a truth and then went too far past judicial limits in trying to prescribe a remedy for an admittedly bad situation. The Fifth Circuit opinion corrected those judicial excesses of Judge Justices, and that's how the system is supposed to work.
Lieutenant Governor Hobby says a new 400-bed prison hospital in Galveston will be completed next year, and says the state is also in the construction phase of building 2 new prison facilities. And both Hobby and Clements have said all along that Judge Justice's order was really unnecessary because the state is making prison changes as quickly as it can. In Beaumont, Keith Elkins, Channel 6 News. Simply put, security at today's dedication ceremonies was tighter than usual, primarily because Vice President Bush was en route to California to brief President Reagan on his recent trip to England, and because the Secret Service is still recovering from the March assassination attempt on the president's life. No one was spared, including television crews who had to let a specially trained German shepherd sniff for bombs, musicians who had to open up their instruments, and spectators who were asked to open up their handbags for inspection. It seemed that Secret Service men talking into their wrist and staring off into space as they listened to communication messages in their ears were everywhere, nervously looking, pacing, and surveying the crowd of approximately 1,500 for anything unusual. And as Sergeant Kent Schaefer of the Lamar University Police explains, local law enforcement did its share in helping protect Texas' native son.
I'd say it was about 30 city officers. There were 7 of our Lamar officers here. Probably about 50 Secret Service altogether, and then the Sheriff's Department handled the motorcade from the airport here, and then from here back to the airport with the Vice President.
Schaefer says there were several people whose activities were monitored today because they were considered a potential threat, including one Golden Triangle resident who has made previous death threats to the president. But today's activities went smooth, and although these people were glad when the vice president came to town, these people were happier when he left. In Beaumont, Keith Elkins, Channel 6 News.
Come on down to McFadden Beach and join us, all right? We're cleaning up the beach today. Free beer, free soft drinks, free food. You can't pass that up. I know
And
Gary
a lot of
would be there
people
if he
didn't
wanted-
pass up the chance to participate in KZOM's second annual cleanup party at McFadden Beach today. I mean, sure, there was free beer, free hot dogs, and even free soft drinks. But it was also a chance to pitch in and help get the beach in shape for the 4th of July while having a good time doing it. And this reporter was one of the ones who couldn't pass up such an opportunity.
I think it's pretty neat 'cause the first thing they handed me was a beer when I came up.
Like I told my wife, makes you feel a little better, everybody down here cleaning up.
You enjoying this?
I think it's pretty neat because I think our beaches should be clean like this all the time.
And as Bill DeMore explains, KZOM plans for this beach to stay that way.
Well, a lot of our listeners use this beach, and we want to be able to provide something for them, and we felt this was a pretty good community project to work on this summer, and a lot of people use the beach. We want them to have a clean place to come.
And if you missed your chance to pitch in and party at McFadden Beach today, well, KZOM says they'll be back next year. From McFadden Beach, Keith Elkins, Channel 6 News. It was just last month that state health officials came to the Golden Triangle to confirm the state's second case of cholera since 1973. It was considered an isolated case that involved eating improperly cooked shellfish and turtle caught near a Beaumont bayou. Today, a 4-member investigative team led by the State Health Department's Director of Epidemiology returned, confirming the second case to have come out of southeast Texas. This time, this case is suspected to be from the Adams Bayou near Orange.
We've been able to examine the patient and to examine the organism that caused diarrhea in the gentleman, and our laboratory confirms the diagnosis of cholera. We found that it was consistent with cholera on Friday afternoon, and that's why we're here today. This case, at least preliminarily, has no relationship to the case in Beaumont.
This case involved a 65-year-old man from Orange who was hospitalized 7 days ago in the Orange Memorial Hospital. Preliminary epidemiologic investigation suggests there is no relationship between this case and commercially prepared seafood or to the public water supply. However, state officials say they will remain in the area for the next 3 to 4 days to analyze laboratory samples taken earlier today. Keith Elkins, Channel 6 News.
Port Arthur's newly proposed voting plan is dubbed the 423 plan. Basically, the new plan includes 8 instead of 7 councilmen, along with the mayor. If this plan meets with Justice Department approval, it will work like this. District 1 will include the Sabine Pass area and total 79% black. District 2 takes in the southeastern corner of Port Arthur at 18% black. District 3 borders Griffing Park, almost 4% black. District 4 will be nearly 63% black, encompassing the northwestern part of Port Arthur. So the city will be divided into 4 single-member districts. Councilman number 5 will be elected from a combination of Districts 1 and 4, making District 5 70% black. The District 6 representative will be elected from Districts 2 and 3, almost 11% black. The 7th and 8th councilmen will be elected at large with no residency requirements. The mayor will also be elected at large with all council members serving 2-year terms.
We make it possible where they can elect, the black people can elect 3 black members of the council of their choice.
Some Port Arthur citizens previously voiced their disapproval of the 441 plan. They also feel the new 423 plan will be unfair to blacks as the population shifts in the near future.
Well, it's gerrymandered in such a way whereby blacks could receive 3 councilmen today, but tomorrow the blacks would lose all of those councilmen. A very good possibility of losing all of them.
Well, any major shift in population, the council has authority to readjust the boundaries. So they got to be equal in districts as near as possible as far as population is concerned.
The 423 plan was presented to the Justice Department today, and city officials hope to hear a decision from them this week.
If for some reason or other the Justice Department does not accept this compromise plan, then obviously we still have the right to appeal to the Supreme Court. But the conditions are now with the Justice Department, it looks very favorably. It still has to go to a vote of the people.
We'll go ahead and call election, charter change election for August 8th. And of course, if the citizens approve the plan, and certainly the council will recommend the citizens approve it, we'll have a general election in November the 3rd. And this election will be the election that would be normally scheduled for the first Saturday in April of '82. Well, my reaction is I'm hoping that this thing can be approved before we can get on with our business in this city and get back to normal.
Leslie Brinkley, Channel 6 News.
The proposal is a joint project by the Beaumont Chamber of Commerce and the Central City Development Corporation. It calls for 3 areas of downtown Beaumont to be reconstructed. Beaumont Chamber President Dennis Soderholm says this is an effort to bring people back to downtown Beaumont.
First area is around the Stedman building, the parking lot, the depot, and the Friedman buildings, and developing that into a central square, a very public, active square, with the buildings becoming room for tenants of restaurants and the type I mentioned. This could be done and would be done to make it a very attractive area in an old town theme. The next area is the area around the Kyle building and the government building, developing a passive park in the triangle and possibly building 2 new office buildings along with the adaptive reuse of the existing buildings, including the Kyle building.
The third area is located on Main Street. Directly across the street from the phone company, a hotel and parking garage are scheduled to be built. Soderholm says the city is very impressed with the proposal.
The city, I think, has been looking towards this kind of private development over the last few years. What we've brought forth is a plan and a vehicle to do it by. Central City Development Corporation is committed to doing this and is going to be raising
in paying $100,000 over the next 2 years to get all of the work and the financing packaging and the actual building packaging accomplished.
The Beaumont Downtown Revitalization proposal will come before City Council for their consideration tomorrow afternoon. Jim Oliver in Beaumont, Channel 6 News. In January of this year, residential and business property taxes for 1980 were due in full payment. After that, in February, a 1.5% penalty was applied to unpaid property taxes, and that penalty accrues until the end of this month. Tomorrow, June 30th, is the last day that county, city, and school district property taxes can be paid before they are delinquent.
And at the beginning of July, a full 11%, which is 2 or 3 percentage points higher than the amount that would normally accrue, will be applied. That then we will continue to apply 1.5% penalty following that. And also on July the 1st, we have the authority within the law to file for a judgment on the property.
Which means that the county can foreclose on the property. Lamson adds that the county hopes within a few months to be able to file suit in less than a year after delinquency occurs. Of course, there are always exceptions to the rule.
A person who's over 65 years old cannot have his or her property removed from them. So if they are delinquent in their taxes, we might be able to file suit, but even if we win that suit, we can't take the property away from them. So it's not a matter of something that the tax office, any place, is trying to kick somebody out of their home.
South County taxpayers can pay county taxes in the Port Arthur Sub-Courthouse at 1125 Lakeshore Drive, and North County taxpayers should pay their taxes at the courthouse on 1149 Pearl Street in Beaumont. Terry Elliott, Channel 6 News.
Now, I know you've been told that my proposal for economic recovery is designed to discriminate against all who are economically deprived. Now, those who say that could be confused by the misstatements that have been made by some who are either ignorant of the facts or those who are practicing for political reasons pure demagoguery.
According to NAACP Executive Director Dr. Benjamin Hooks, the Reagan plan will discriminate against the poor and the rich will benefit unjustly.
A person who had a family of four making $10,000 who today lives at the level of poverty and who pays $600 in Social Security tax and $394 in federal income tax, $984 out of $10,000. In 3 years under the Kemper-Roth tax bill, that family will save $94. On the other hand, if you happen to make $200,000 a year, in 3 years you'll save $34,000. And then somebody wants me to believe that's equity and equality.
Dr. Hai Kim is the head of the economic department at Lamar University.
The rich will be better off than the poor. President Reagan is considering that middle-income family and an upper-income family haven't had their fair share in the last 20 years. He feels that what we ought to do, especially in order to encourage savings so that we have funds to invest for increase in productivity, he feels that we ought to have across-the-board tax cuts. So whole thing boils down to rather philosophical difference. How much we're going to do for whom? But if we look at total economic picture, the idea is to curb inflation. And to do so, we have to increase our productivity by increasing our savings and increasing investments. I feel that Mr. Reagan's tax program is as good as anybody else's.
Wayne Sparrow, Channel 6 News. Just before he was rushed to Beaumont St. Elizabeth's Hospital, 26-year-old John Van Meter quickly summed up what happened.
Okay, then.
How long were you in there?
Too long.
Too long, according to John's father, A.F. Van Meter, was about an hour. John was trapped in this sand pit he and his dad were digging at his dad's trailer park at 1570 Terry Road in Vidor.
He was in there by himself and I was on the bank. It was buried over his head for a time. Well, I uncovered his head with a shovel. He was conscious, but he was it was real close. There was a time when he could just barely breathe. We were digging a sand pit, moving the dirt out and putting sand in, and one side just caved off and pinned him.
Rescue workers freed John around 2 o'clock, and as he left for the hospital, he had one other thing to say.
How does it feel to be out?
Beautiful.
From Vidor, Wayne Sparrow, Channel 6 News.
Smoke still escaped from charred sections of Alfred's grocery store today. Smoke left over from a fire that raced through the building late yesterday afternoon and destroyed most all of it. The Port Arthur Fire Department has zeroed in on a cause.
We haven't had a fire this size, this loss, for quite some time, and this is, for the size store, it's a big fire. The fire was discovered in the area at the rear of the building, in and around the area where the electrical equipment is located.
According to Bork, a broken water main only hampered the efforts of firefighters momentarily. Just as the fire was nearly brought under control, it spread upward, and the extreme heat in a false attic above the store sent flames ripping through the whole wooden structure, burning it to the ground. The West Port Arthur Road grocery store belonged to Johnny Alford, and he was in his store when the fire started.
And I screamed and hollered for everybody to clear the building, and everybody cleared the building. I started here 32 years ago with a small operation, and I've built it to a large operation. I have 2,300 square feet store now, and it's just completely destroyed, and we intend to rebuild a new store.
In new stores constructed in Port Arthur, fire safety devices are required. But this grocery store was built in Port Acres before the area consolidated with Port Arthur, and it did not have firewalls or a sprinkler system. So when Alfred rebuilds his store, more safety factors will have to be taken into consideration. Leslie Brinkley, Channel 6 News.
This is the Adams Bayou, located just outside Orange. It's a type of slow-moving backwater that provides the main source of seafood for a lot of people. But as Dr. Barry Hafkin of the State Health Department explains, if you eat seafood caught in waters like these, you need to be extra careful in how you prepare it.
People who fish for shellfish or fish or turtles or crayfish or have any sort of food product out of these contaminated waters need to take special care to prepare these foods very carefully, cooking them for long periods of time and at high temperatures, boiling them at high temperatures. People who fish these waters need to be extra special in their precautions to cook them well.
Waters like these are considered contaminated waters because they contain a high organic content, possibly including feces. And although the organic matter doesn't actually create cholera, it is ideal for allowing that germ and others that could be harmful to your health to survive for long periods of time. A little longer cooking at a little higher temperature could mean the difference in your health. From Orange, Keith Elkins, Channel 6 News.
But the Justice Department is not satisfied, and they want to appeal it, and so we're going to listen, as we have with our conferences up in Washington, to them, additional things that they want us to do and not do, and things like that. And what will come from it, we really don't know. But I think it's good that we can talk.
Will tonight's meeting resolve anything? Will this solve the desegregation conflict for Port Arthur?
I doubt it very seriously. I think that whatever the points of view might be presented will not be resolved this evening. I would like to say that it would be, but I do not think it will be.
Well, when you come to the water department to pay your bill this month, you might be a little bit happier than you were last month. That's because there's something special going on inside. A pamphlet entitled Water Conservation at Home is being included in this month's water bills.
There are several important factors. One is in the toilets of your home you could put plastic bottles filled with a little bit of sand in the bottom to keep them down, to keep the water flow going. In showers, you could time yourself in the shower where you wouldn't just stand under and use the hot water. In shaving, toothbrushing, don't leave the water running as you do these things. In the kitchen, if you use your dishwashers, go ahead and be sure you have a full load. Laundry, the same. Be sure your load is full. And then it goes on to show you how outside you can time your water sprinklers and such like that to make sure that you can see how much it would really cost you by watering your yard. Goes on to explain to you how to read your own meter in case you want to check, and just keep a check on that and see. It shows you how to see if your meter is flowing, your water is flowing and it's correct. And then there's several good hints in here about different things, small things you can do.
Along with hopefully letting customers know the city is concerned, city officials say the pamphlet can really save both money and water. From Orange, Wayne Sparrow, Channel 6 News.
This is what the new Beaumont Community Health Clinic facility will look like. It will be located right next door to the present health center, which is located in the 900 block of Washington Boulevard. Plans to build the new facility were a long time in coming, but Beaumont Mayor Maury Meyer says once completed, it will provide invaluable service to those needing medical care.
Oh, there's a tremendous need, and I think it's important to recognize that with all the work that we've done to this point, this will in no way answer the entire need. This will probably be, in my judgment, just a tip of the iceberg, but the need is very great. We have so many people, of course, who do have to now travel to Galveston that we think we can serve from some specific areas in the community.
And Beaumont Health Administrator Hugh Wright agrees. He says the new facility was needed because they have outgrown their present facilities.
Well, the center itself, when completed, will house the medical facilities for the clinic and also the dental clinic facilities. And of course, by having the medical facilities there, we will be able to provide people with medical care that at the present time we're not able to supply.
The money to build the new health facility will come from the Community Development Block Grant Fund and the Public Building and Land Fund. Total cost of the project is $378,000. Jim Oliver in Beaumont, Channel 6 News. May 14, 1979, Delta Airlines pulled out of Jefferson County Airport. Not enough people were flying Delta. Then, almost a year and a half later, on September 5, 1980, Southwest Airlines took off from the county airport for good. Too many people were driving to their destination instead of flying. This evening at 7:55, Flight 940 to Baton Rouge will be Texas International's last flight out of the county airport. Economics has forced TI out of our area. Texas International has served the Golden Triangle since May 27, 1948. Jack Salyer, city manager for TI for almost 10 years, says leaving won't be easy.
We're proud of the service we've given here. We feel like we've been a good neighbor in the community, and we're proud of the service we've given in the past, and we all kind of hate to leave. All the employees have lived around here for a long time in Beaumont, Port Arthur, Lumberton, Groves, and it's a little sad, we kind of hate to leave.
And what about future jet airlines? What will be the toughest thing facing them?
Well, fighting that highway to Houston, the biggest competitor.
I think too many people are still driving instead of catching a flight.
Right.
Sun Air Jetline service is scheduled to begin serving out of Jefferson County Airport in early fall. Terry Elliott, Channel 6 News.